What's up, guys? It is finally fall. That means it's time for fall fishing, one of my favorite times of the year, but it is not always easy, and I think there are a lot of fishermen out there who fall victim to 5 mistakes or 5 myths about fall fishing. So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to debunk those so you can get out and catch more fish on the river this year. So have you ever heard the phrase 95% of the fish are in 5% of the lake, or in this case, the river? Do you subscribe to that? Do you think it's true? Personally, I think it is mostly true this time of year. Fish are grouped up into specific spots, and you can return to those spots and keep catching them. I just think that's going to be really hard if you're falling victim to some of these myths, these common misconceptions about fall fishing. So let's go ahead and get into the first myth today. So the first myth that I'd like to discuss is one that involves a term that I think we all hear a lot, and that is the term the fall feed. I think this is the most overhyped term in fishing, and I think it is a little bit of a myth because it gives you the idea that fish are going to be feeding all the time, and if you're not catching them, you're doing something wrong. Fall is not that much different than other times of the year, although fish are preparing for winter, so there probably is an increase in how much they feed. However, fall feeding does not happen the same way as other seasons. It tends to break itself up into bite windows. So if you go out there thinking that the fall feed is going to be nonstop all day, I think you're in for disappointment, and I think that term is a little misleading. So I'm calling the fall feed a myth because I think it gives us unrealistic expectations about what fall fishing is supposed to be. And for everybody, the fall feed happens at such different times, right? I know guys who are saying that the fall feed is on at the beginning of September when the air temperatures are still 90 and the water temps are still way high. I think it happens after fish move to transition areas or wintering areas or around those spots where they are going to feed to bulk up for the winter. However, that feeding, like I said, is going to be broken up into windows. It's not going to be constant, nonstop action. It can be crazy for short periods of time, but overall, the fall feed is an overhyped term. Don't let it fool you about fall fishing. The second myth is one that has to do with temperature, and this myth is that temperature is everything. There's a lot of anglers out there who think that the air temps are like the end-all be-all, and that is the determining factor when fish start to move and smallmouth specifically start to migrate. I don't think air temp has near as much to do with it as other factors like photo period, something that's constant year after year after year that the fish can rely on. I think length of day is really going to be the factor that kickstarts fish migrations, and while temperature does affect the bite from day to day, I don't think that the fact that it's going to be 75 today is affecting the seasonal migration of the smallmouth, right? They're not going to go all the way back upriver 6 miles from where they came from just because the air temp is a little bit warm. Water temperatures are a lot more consistent and a lot more reliable, but even those I don't think are the end-all be-all of determining when that fall bite is actually going to happen. So I for sure have fished some transitional areas when fish are in their transitional pattern. They are moving from one place to another and they stop in feeding zones along the way, but these zones do not change year after year after year, and I can go to them at the exact same time of year. Second week, third week of October, I can go there and I can catch fish regardless of the conditions. This year alone, it was 80 degrees and we found fish in the same exact spots that we've caught them when the air temps were below freezing and when the water temperatures were in the 40s and upper 30s. There are going to be spots that fish gravitate towards, that they stop along and feed when they are moving towards their wintering holes, and air temperature just isn't going to be what is causing them to move and stay. I will say that I think it does affect the bite from day to day. It could affect what you're gonna be throwing at them, but in my experience, the rivers that I fish in Wisconsin and Illinois, the fish are in the same spot year after year after year, almost down to the day. If you haven't hit that like button or subscribe button at this point in time, I'm kindly asking that you do so. Thank you very much, but even if you don't, I'm still going fishing. The third myth that I think a lot of people fall victim to is this time of year. They just say that the bite is dead. It's a bad day, the fish aren't biting, and no, I think you're just in the wrong spot, or I think you missed the feeding window. I can't say enough how important feeding windows are this time of year in the fall, especially when you get later into the year. I tend to find that these feeding windows open up early in the morning and they close fairly quickly. They do not last that long. So if you're missing the feeding window, it sure does feel like the bite is slow. However, if you were in the right spot at the right time, the bite was quick, it was heavy, and it was a lot of fun. Obviously, you have to learn your body of water, learn when these windows open, learn where they open so that you can get out and really focus your efforts at specific times to catch the most fish. And it may be worth it to just pack up and leave once that window is closed and go somewhere else where you know that there's a window another time of day. And I do have to say that sometimes these windows may not open as wide or they may not open at all based on the conditions. If you're fishing really cold and raining conditions, in my experience, the bite window does not open up that much. You'll still get fish to go. You'll still catch some on some moving baits, but it's not the same as like a sunny, cold morning. That rain, that wind, those conditions tend to shut that bite window down. Again, that doesn't mean that fish aren't feeding or they're not going to feed, but you may have to really slow down and you may really have to work for it. Myth number 4, it's too cold to throw this or to throw that. Regardless of how early or how late in the year it gets cold, fish are still gonna have to feed, and we have to be there in order to take advantage of it. It does not matter if it's freezing cold or it doesn't matter if it's 70 degrees, they have to eat regardless because they have to survive a winter. So this means that there'll be times where the bite is absolutely on fire and you can throw pretty much anything and the fish are gonna respond in a positive way. Top water when the air temps are only 38 degrees, you bet. Burning swim baits when the water is in the 40s, absolutely. Erratic jerk baiting as the temperatures drop into the upper 30s and you're wearing a winter jacket, for sure. Don't let the temperature gauge tell you what to throw. Let the fish tell you what to throw. When it comes to baits, I think you should follow the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Throw things that you have confidence in. Throw things that you're not going to mind locking in your hand. When the bite is good, keep throwing them, but when the bite slows down, you want to throw something that you're really confident in because you might have to grind it out a little bit when the bite window closes. Additionally, don't be afraid to throw bigger baits in the fall, especially if the fish are telling you that they're eating. But you can throw a lot of things into packs of feeding fish and get hit, and size is not going to be the determining factor, I can guarantee that. It's most likely going to be which fish gets to it first, and then are they big enough to actually take the bait down and get hooked up. I know it's tempting to say that it's too cold for this or too cold for that, but let the fish tell you what to throw. Don't go in with any preconceived notions. There are going to be daily fluctuations, and you're going to have to feel things out. So start fast, start big, let the fish tell you what they're willing to eat, and then go from there, but be willing to adapt along the way. All right, this 5th and final myth is one that I have fallen victim to, and I want to keep you from doing it because a lot of people think that there is no morning bite, that it's too cold for a morning bite in the fall. I'm just gonna flat out tell you that you're wrong. I think way too many people think that it's not necessary to get out early in the morning before sunrise because it's cold and because that sun hasn't gotten out and heated up the water. I have fallen victim to this myth myself, and it is not true. There is 100% a feeding window that starts as soon as that sun gets up. I'm not talking gets up over the trees and starts hitting the water directly. I'm talking when those first rays of light are getting out over the water. There are going to be bait fish that fire up, and that is what kickstarts the smallmouth. I have experienced this year after year after year. In the fall, I experienced it just this morning. There is going to be a window. I don't know how long or how short it's going to be. It could be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, it could be longer, but once that window opens, you have a limited amount of time to get out there and get on those fish, and getting out as early as you can, you not only beat other anglers, but you're on top of the fish as they turn on and you're watching them and you're responding. It is the best time of the day to get out there and catch an absolute boatload right off the bat. All right, guys, that is going to be it. Please avoid those 5 myths about fall fishing. Please do not make those 5 mistakes because they are going to cost you dearly this time of year. And this is when you really want to be in the right spot at the right time because it can be some of the best fishing of the year. No joke. It is by far my favorite time of year. I literally count down to this all year long. I've got 364 days until the next time. So I want you to get out there when it's your special time of the year and do the best you possibly can. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like if you have not, and I'll see you next time.